Welcome to the Laser Lounge podcast, and I'm your host, Alicia Pate. This is your premier destination for all things laser and beyond. Whether you're deep into the CO2 and Galvo laser community, or you're exploring the world of CNC and woodworking, we've got you covered. Join us as we dive into a vast array of topics, from creating amazing projects with your lasers to making savvy business and marketing decisions. Our show is brought to you by our fantastic sponsors. They are Thunder Laser USA, Phantom CNC, Rotoboss Rotary Attachments, and Hotien Laser. We're here to inspire, inform, and ignite your passion for making. So tune in and let's create something special. All right. Hey, Jeff, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. We should be firing up and starting to stream here. Just making sure that we're going. Can I have somebody comment in the chat? Yeah, we got viewers, so we're good. We got 6 viewers today. All right. So first of all, welcome to the Laser Lounge podcast. We're going to be streaming on YouTube Live right now, and then we're going to take this guy and take it over into a podcast and then also a regular video on YouTube. So we might have some people missing it tonight, but we're going to have it up for y'all later. So first of all, I just want to say welcome. We're going to be talking to Jeff tonight about engraving firearms. And I've wanted to have him on for a long time now, but you know how things go. But this is a great topic. I think a lot of engravers start, kind of tinkering around with or want to get into. We've got a lot of people that just love personalizing things, and firearms are definitely one of those items that people make really good money at and want to tinker around and learn about. And I also think it's an area that there's not a lot of great information out there. So that's going to be our topic today. So we're going to spend some time with Jeff. But before we get rolling on the topic itself, welcome to the podcast. Give us a little introduction about yourself and what you do and what kind of machines you have up in there.
Well, my name is Jeff Stockton, and can you hear me okay here?
I got you.
Okay, perfect. So I'm in South Carolina on the East Coast, good bit away from you. It's 7 o'clock here, past our dinner time, so that's good. I've got a whole slew of machines, and fortunately and unfortunately, all in the same breath, they're not all here. But we have about 14 lasers. The newest addition here being behind me, I got a 60-watt Galvo CO2 that I haven't even plugged up, unfortunately. But life.
It's loud. It's loud, but it's great.
Yeah. Matt said that he did like a fan upgrade, and it quietened it down by I don't know, maybe approximately half of the noise in the decibel level. Then I've got the big thunder, not the biggest thunder, but the 51-inch 100-watt. And then I've got a handful of 50 watts. I've got a 60-watt. I've got an 80-watt portable here in the floor, right here next to this big old compressor. I have an Index X, as you do.
Oh, very nice. Yes.
Ben told me, and yeah. So those are, and then I seen a tidbit of your unboxing. I'm terrible at watching video. I can't even put them out, so I don't watch them either. So, but I have an Index X. Those are amazing. Like, we have done so much. I need to do more videos on it, but we've done so much production work. But we do have a lot of NDAs, so a lot of that production work I can't show people, but I could make a dummy job. I just don't have time. But I have an Index X. I've got a portable 20-watt that we take to gun shows, fiber. It's amazing. I buy just a plethora of TSA confiscated knives. That's a great avenue. That's a great avenue to get, decent little pocket knives for super dirt cheap. TSA confiscations. If you can get into the rotation of actually buying them from TSA, you are in good shape, especially if you're on the gun show or knife, any type of weaponry circuit. You can just really pump those things out, because I take that little 20-watt to the gun shows and we put names on a knife, and I charge $15 with your name on it for the knife, And so basically, I call these things ATMs. Y'all, a lot of people call them lasers, but these things print money for a lot, for some people, and some people super struggling to even get a sale. And so, like, I have seen it on the super extreme side of both, of that gamut. I see people in the in the chat or in your lounge, saying
Yeah.
I haven't had a I haven't had this, or there's no traffic on my website, or whatever. And then you have people that are like, man, I just got a $2,800 order, 6 times, or
Yeah.
whatever, and so it's all over the place. One thing I will say, we'll get into the firearm thing. One thing I'll say about the money in the laser is the same thing I said on my speech in Lightburn. It will almost never come to you. You got to
Yeah.
go get the money. You got to go find it. You are the queen of finagling your way in. I've seen I respect you so much. And
I appreciate
shooting
that.
that. Well, for sure though, because you're trying to better your craft, and that's,
Yep.
I think that is a testament to a lot of, and I spoke with Kathy, which I think is one of your moderators on that Let
Yep.
Go page. I just spoke with her a little bit earlier today, and she was, singing the high praises to you too. So, you're a good lady behind the scenes too, is kind of what I was getting
Well,
at,
I
and
appreciate
what
that.
little birdie has told me. So that is very cool. And anyway, that's in a nutshell. I got more computers than I have lasers. If anybody needs a computer,
Well, that's
I bought
awesome.
them.
Well, yeah, I know that you do run a very successful business, and that firearms are kind of a large niche that you have. So
We
that's the
do.
topic for today. So,
Sure.
let's just talk about it. How did you get into it? You don't have to give us the secret sauce, but
It's all
I know
right.
we
The,
got a
the
lot.
secret sauce is dedication. That is the
Yeah.
secret sauce. The secret sauce is not being afraid to spend $500 on a what if. That's the
Yeah.
secret sauce. That is truly. I'm no different than any other Joe Blow guy in their garage, except for I just take a leaf and I'm like, send it. Like, what happened?
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, I bought myself a Glock. You know,
Yeah.
and so, and speaking of, truly, I was actually trying to figure out when to work this in, but I guess I'll lead off with it. You truly can't be afraid to buy a gun that you never intend on putting back together again after you screw it up. This is an $800 1911 that I put the wrong artwork on.
Oh, I have a
It's
1911.
beautiful.
Those are beautiful
It's
guns.
it looks great. The engraving is nice and clean and deep. It's hard to tell because it's
Oh,
still the factory black, but I ain't never done anything to the back of it, because as soon as I hit go and it started cutting, I was like,
it was
man,
too
that is
late.
going to look good. No, I was like, man, that is going to look good. And I can't wait.
Oh man.
I called it. I was like, hey, so you can't be afraid to do that.
Yeah.
That's because now I
Yeah.
truly do have this $800 gun sitting here collecting dust. Now, one day when I ain't got nothing to do, which will probably never, I'll laser it all up and it'll be mine, or may sell it. It doesn't matter, whatever. But anyway, let's get into it. I know you got a whole
Absolutely.
bunch of
Yeah,
questions.
so I got some good questions, but just for podcast purposes, when we get over to the audio side, want to make kind of disclosures that Jeff is not a legal analyst. He's not an ATF agent. And what you're hearing today is, advice or content from somebody who is in the laser engraving space, who is licensed, who's been doing this for a while. And as always, seek out a lawyer if needed for any professional advice with regard to, FFL, etc. But what Jeff is going to do today is just give us kind of how he's running things in his shop and what he's seen, and some maker advice to get you going. So I hope I covered that good enough for you there.
Yeah, I just wanted, I'm not the authority. Like literally, like I was telling you, kind of off camera or off the live, or whatever. The ATFers, they're pretty, they're generally decent people. The ones I've dealt with, the ones I've dealt with personally in my life are great. Like they're like
Yeah.
just nothing short of fantastic. I mean, they're
Yeah.
super. They're not egotistical. They're not here to give me a hard time. And so like I told you, I think that a lot of people have a bad taste in their mouth over FFLs because other FFLs, say it's a terrible thing to get into. So,
Yeah.
but
So one of the things that I did, I'm not, I'm very novice at guns. I know that you have to be licensed for the certain parts of the gun. So I've never really gotten into it. I will do a gun stock for like a shotgun, but I make sure that whoever the person is, they send me the gun with it not connected to the stock. Right. And so
sure.
for me, that's how novice I am. I basically know nothing. But what I did prior to you coming on is, and I'm going to pull it up here, is I brought in kind of some requirements, and hopefully this helps, and it'll just lead the first part of the somebody's new, they want to get into this. There's certain requirements that they need to do and certain things. So I don't want you to dive deep into this, but just hit the highlights. If Susie Queen or Joe Schmo comes up and says, I want to start doing guns, there are requirements legally that they have to meet. So kind of hit these and just kind of your 2 cents on it.
No worries. Let's take that one out. I don't know. It jumped back in there. That bullet point, the second
Okay.
bullet point.
This one right
Well,
here.
no, the typo one. Yeah, right there.
Okay.
No, that's
Okay.
fine. Nope.
Sorry, man.
No, you're good. I just don't want to. Yeah, that right there is not extremely accurate. So,
Okay.
there's gray areas there, and man, and my granddaddy always told me the best way to navigate gray areas was to stay away from them and go around them. So,
Yep.
but
Gotcha.
anyway, yeah, everything there looks about right that I can see, and that's true. And so I'll hit the high notes on it. There's no good reason that I can see that you would only want a O1. That's what you kind of deleted, but there was a little bit of information in there that's not accurate. But the O1 is a dealer. You can engrave guns as a O1 dealer, but you cannot do work on brand new guns, which means they have not been introduced into commerce yet. So you could not get a brand new Glock from, let's say Palmetto State Armory and have it shipped to you and laser it and then sell it to John Doe. That's an 07 function. What you
Okay.
could do is you could buy that gun back from John Doe and then laser it and then sell it to
Okay. So
any.
it's like a possession deal, right? Because they're trying to make sure someone's certified to get the gun or legally get the gun.
Well, no. So what it boils down to is you're enhancing the firearms value, and if you're enhancing the firearms value before it goes into commerce, then that is a manufacturing function.
Gotcha.
That's the way the ATF would word that and tell you. That's why you must be an '07 to decorate. That's what lasering is. A decoration falls under gunsmithing, which, like I said, you can decorate as a gunsmith or a dealer, but you cannot do it on brand new guns
Okay.
because then that would be a manufacturing function. And so to wrap that all up in a nutshell, it doesn't really matter because the '07 covers more and it's cheaper. So I mean, it's just kind of a no-brainer really at the end of the day. The only thing that would deter you is if you're in would have to go on letter down to number 4, but we'll jump around just a little bit. The only way that would
Sure.
deter you is if your local zoning laws would prohibit you, as in my case, I have a means by special exemption, but which just means I paid money, a lot of it, and then spent time. But yeah, I'm not allowed to have any type of manufacturing business at home. Nothing. You couldn't assemble big pens or stuff envelopes
Okay.
if it was considered
Yeah.
manufacturing in zoned areas. So I got an exemption and I'm able to operate as a manufacturer, but I've never manufactured anything,
Yeah.
for myself, for my business, for my trade name. So I've helped lots of other people do it, but it doesn't matter. I get paid along the way and everybody's fine. But the zoning thing is super important in that too. So,
Okay.
but the Form 7 is super, super straightforward. There's not a whole lot of trickery on it. I mean, it just asks you from, you know, your date of birth, where you were born, da 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 da, and you have to give them the passport picture and your fingerprints. And then, generally speaking, after you fill that paperwork out and send in your money order, check, credit card, however you decide to pay, it's about 90 days historically from all the people I've talked to throughout the years, about 90 days from the time they cash your check, from the time that you'll actually know whether or not that you're, going to be allowed to be a federal firearms licensee.
Did they actually come? They come to, it says here they may come to your house.
That's right. Yep. 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 Yep.
Th-
Or your business. So if you have bricks and mortar,
Yeah.
which is another thing to think about, a lot of people don't tell you, or is not thrown around widely in those groups. Um, a lot of people won't deal with you on the corporate level of distributorship as a home-based business. So like
Yeah.
you can't even get, real good deals without bricks and mortar. So just slight
Yeah.
highlight there. Now, it depends on whether you're just selling a bunch of high volume, you could get a good deal. But generally
Sure.
speaking, you can't even buy guns from a lot of the big names. They won't even deal with home-based FFLs, but a lot of them
So
will. There are plenty that do.
did they come to your house and just say, "Show me your setups," or like what?
Yeah, that was pretty much it. They came, they verified if I was in a school zone or not, which is, to my understanding, if you're in a school zone, you have to have one more layer of protection between the firearms and the school. In my
Okay.
case, it was an additional door. So I
Okay.
just had to move my safe from one room into another
Okay.
room, and there was a door in between that
Okay.
was
That's good to
lockable.
know.
And I didn't have to do that if I wanted to buy trigger locks for every single firearm that was in my safe, which could get rather expensive rather
Yeah,
quickly.
I could see that.
And so,
Now let's look
so
at that last one. Oh, go ahead. Finish up.
oh no, so I moved the safe. But like I said, I think that only applies to school zones. And once again, also your IOI's interpretation, because you're going to have your own, like we're all married, and James has a much different outlook on certain things as I do, right? But we're both
Yeah.
husbands. So
Yeah.
you got to think of it. They're both IOIs. But so, before you dive into anything, you need to get intimate with that
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
hey, how do you want me to do it? Oh, and that's a great
Yeah.
question. Like this,
Yeah.
because that's
Yeah.
where a lot of the information comes from. I do believe that is where 99% of the misinformation comes from. No, you're wrong because my guy said this. Well, his guy did say that because my guy said this, though. And guess what?
Yeah.
I don't really care what your guy says because I ain't going to meet your guy, hopefully. As long as I do what my guy says, I'll never see your guy. But
Yeah.
if I don't do what my guy says, I might see a bunch of people's guys. That's
Sure.
what you don't want is, then please don't shoot my dog, you know.
No, no.
And,
So I'm looking at this last one, this maintain records. Is that something that you have to submit like annually or just if they ask or what?
so, due to the recent presidential administration's decisions in the FFL world, up until this year, we had to legally keep the records for 20 years, 25 years,
Okay.
25 years. We had to keep the records for 25 years. And at that point, I actually really don't know what you're supposed to do at that point. You either, you think you send them to the ATF or the Department of Justice.
Okay.
Or you just box
So
them up
but you
for
don't
25 years old
okay,
and you
but
send
you're
them
not
on.
having to like you know how you do submit sales tax or whatever quarterly. You're not having to like give records like that. So it's not overwhelming is what I'm
No,
trying to get at.
no. Thank
Okay.
God for the NRA.
Okay.
Please, I'm gonna step off camera one quick because I think I have an old 4473 in this. I do. A 4473 is the form, kind of like your ATF form 7. This is a new 4473. It's dated August 23, which is the most current version, which would now include question 14 to have non-binary. And
Okay.
so, and also to include whether or not the buyer resides in the city limits or not. So that was
Okay.
another change. But this is a 4473. This is the form that the customer will fill out. You would fill this first portion out here. This is the type, the serial number, make, model of whatever gun, the number of guns that you're selling. You'll write that number out, and blah 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 blah. They fill out height, sex, weight, nationality, whether they're Hispanic or Latino, and white, etc. They answer a barrage of questions, basically trying to determine if they're mentally stable enough to have a firearm, if they've ever been convicted, if they're addicted to controlled substance, etc. And then this form I will keep forever now.
Okay.
Now we will keep this forever.
I want
So
to
it'll
make sure I
be
understand something because I don't want to get confused. That form is something that you have to file for every person that you engrave their firearm or
no. When you sell a gun.
okay, okay,
So we
okay.
were talking
All
we
right.
were talking about records. We were talking
Yeah,
about
yeah,
records.
yeah.
you asked me about records. So this is the record, and then you have your A&D books, which is you touched on that in one of those bullet points there. Your
Yeah.
acquisition and disposition books, where you acquire firearms and then you dispose to the public or other licensees. So
Yes.
there are no paperwork for transfers between licensees except for copies of FFLs. So like if I wanted to
Okay.
send you a gun, if you're an FFL and I say, hey, Alicia, I'm sending you this Glock 43, whatever. All right, put my FFL in the box and send it to you, and you pick it up and you file mine away, put it in your books. I dispose to Alicia. Alicia acquires from Jeff, and then you dispose to whomever it is that you dispose of.
Okay.
If you dispose to the public, you'll be using one of these forms 4473.
Okay. Very good. Appreciate that kind of overview of the requirements and how to get documented in the right way. So that's good, and those resources are out there, and I'm sure you can find more of that on the internet. So
Sure,
what
ATF.gov is a pretty good resource too. I mean, just like the ATF has
perfect.
a bunch of frequently asked questions, that they'll answer right there on their website.
Okay, that's good to know. So what I see is, and I don't see it a lot because I'm not in a lot of the laser gun groups, but I know there are actually some groups that are focused for guns. So if you're
Sure.
wanting to do this, it may be worth getting in there just to make sure you're getting some good info. But
Yeah.
someone calls you and they say, "Hey, Alicia, I know you do engraving. I got a firearm, I got a pistol. Can you put this on it? Can you put my logo, my name, whatever?" And it's like, hey, people do things that they shouldn't. So that's what I want to talk about is we've talked about the
Sure.
legal ways to do it. Now, what are you seeing? Do you see with your lens people doing anything and everything, or kind of what?
Uh, I want to piggyback on what Jason said, and he is exactly right because I didn't finish. If you ever do give up your FFL for any reason, you will have to give them the records as if it were the 25 years. So
Okay.
if I hold that record for 25 years, I would have normally had to have give it to the ATF. But Jason's right. Roto
Okay.
boss is right. Rather, but he's exactly correct. If you were to give up your FFL for any reason, um, you would have to give them the records because at that point, you wouldn't be a licensee, so they couldn't bother you anymore. And they would
Okay.
need the reason for these forms is like if that gun that you sell whomever winds up at the scene of something that bad happens, then let's say it was a Glock, they call Glock and they say, where'd the serial number go? And Glock says, I sent it to you know Davidson's, and Davidson says, I sent it to Jeff, and Jeff says, I sent it to Alicia, and
Yeah.
Alicia says, I gave it to this person right here. And
Yeah.
then that's over with. So that's what this is all for. It's to do a trace. But anyway,
Oh, got it. Yeah.
sorry, just to
No, you're fine. Please answer anything that comes in there.
no, but he's so right, and I was on the tip of my tongue but anyway, so to answer your question directly, I ain't heard of nobody's door getting kicked down for engraving a gun. Okay, so but the legality of it is yes. For whatever reason, if they wanted to make an example out of you, if you're not licensed to have someone else's firearm, then you're breaking the law. So
Yeah.
what it boils down to is even if it's your buddy, right? Now, I mean, I'd say that you'd be hard pressed, like your dad, your husband, your brother, anything like that. Like that's it. But the guy a couple farms down the road from you, says, yeah, I'd really like to get something done to my Glock. That's like I said, that's illegal as far as
Yeah.
it goes. But I mean, I definitely don't condone doing anything illegal rather. But I doubt very seriously you're gonna have helicopters hovering over your house if
Sure.
you
Sure.
do that. But don't, because like we already established, it's $150 in 90 days, and you can spend that
Yeah.
90 days go ahead and getting stupid stuff like this out of the way
Yeah.
with
I
your own
think,
gun.
yeah, I've screwed up a gun stock before, and it was like, I don't know, cost me $1,200 that I had to eat. And it was like oh crap, I'm not gonna do guns. I'm not gonna do these anymore unless I really know, unless it's my niche,
No,
right?
I
I
get it.
mean,
Yeah, yeah.
because it's an
It's a huge
expensive,
leap
yeah,
when
it's an
it especially
expensive,
especially now, we've talked about brand new guns, but
yeah,
we haven't talked about my granddaddy's Colt.
yeah, yeah,
That, and so we've done some rather expensive guns, and like you couldn't talk to me the whole day leading up to it. I just don't talk
Yeah.
to me. I mean, I was just
Yeah.
because on edge, your nerves, nothing but nerves of steel. Then, but once again, with anything, go back to the basics. Double
Yeah.
check yourself. Complacency will get you screwed real quick. My kids ask me all the time, I was like, why does it take you so long to do? I'm like, because pre-flight checklist. Every pilot does it.
Yes.
Doesn't matter. Your life's on the line. You don't skimp the pre-flight checklist. And
That's
so
absolutely right. No,
that
you're
that's
right
kind
about
of
that.
and so I don't want to lay the heavy stuff on my kids, but his life depends on it. you
Yeah, yeah.
know.
So this leads us into a good question that we had in the group. I think it was Sarah who asked it. What parts of the gun can you engrave legally? Like, is it anything goes, or
So
because you hear about
so
this upper, lower, all that. So go
well,
ahead.
as an FFL, if it's just a regular firearm, then it's no holds bar if it's used. If it's new, you have to be a manufacturer, and you would have to put your trade on it. But we'll just stick with used guns. Let's say that we're just going to
Okay.
do nothing but used guns. And if as an FFL, there's no part on the gun that you can't engrave over except for the serial number. You guessed it.
Okay.
Um, but there's like on 1911s, these are really good money makers here. Like I have these guy
The
local to me.
handles.
Yeah, the scales for 1911s. We sell a metric ton of them on my website because they're really good. There's no tool lines. Like these things are, almost mirror polished. So you can literally just, if settings are good enough, you can take them right off the laser and hand them to a customer. But they look really good. That no FL required. I think in the chat yesterday when you announced this, or 2 days ago, whenever it was, and somebody had mentioned or whatever, but I use what I call the eBay rule of thumb. And the eBay rule of thumb is basically, and I use eBay as a blanket term for any online retailer, right? So whether you're talking about Academy Sports, Palmetto State Armory, Cabela's, whatever. But I use the eBay rule of thumb, which means that if I can go onto eBay and click buy it and it ships to my mailbox, then with the business license and proper zoning administration, you can engrave it without an FFL. Or there's no, that's just like right now, this is a piece of metal. Even when it's on a gun, it's still a piece of metal. All right, or a firearm rather. But this is a piece of metal.
Yeah.
Barrels, slides. This without an FFL, you can engrave, to my knowledge, every slide ever. And I could be misspoken there. There could be some very obscure slide somewhere that the serial number is on the slide, but most of them are not. But like this, you don't need an FFL to engrave a 1911 slide, a Glock slide, a Taurus slide, magazines of any kind. You don't need an FFL to engrave magazines, which is, we had a huge go at magazines a few years back. Like an insane amount of 30 round PMags and stuff were laser
Yeah.
engraving. And it's still very much going on, but I think the craze kind of died down because America bought 10 million PMags during COVID, and so nobody needs any. But so though this is the firearm.
Okay.
Even if we took it down to metal, nothing, no trigger, no hammer, no safety, no sides, no nothing. This piece of metal here is the firearm because that is where the serial number lives, right there.
Okay.
And it's stamped
That
on
you
this front.
absolutely have to have the FFL for.
So you have to have an FFL to engrave this in any capacity, no matter what. And I want to go ahead and address the elephant in the room. All right. People will say, well, you don't need an FFL if the guy stands there with you or whatever. All right. Gray area. Not true. Because who has the gun if he's standing right here? I'm holding
Yeah.
the gun. And the feds just want to make sure that whomever's holding the gun is legally allowed to hold the gun and they're not going to kill said person that bring that over to engrave,
Yeah.
whatever, or do something bad.
Yeah. I've heard that.
So,
I've heard that misnomer.
but and it's absolutely false. What
Okay.
that I think stemmed from is in your A&D books, you have to log any firearm that comes into your door if it's there when you lock up for the night. So if it spends the night with you, it must be in your books, because if some person broke in, or they're
Yeah.
not going to, whatever. And so if it spends that, but if it doesn't spend the night with you, then it doesn't have to be logged. That is the interpretation of my IOI. So there could be a barrage of people saying, no, that's not right. So the way my IOI explained it to me is, if it doesn't spend the night with me, it doesn't have to go on my books, which means, and is also a delicate area of engraving suppressors, short barreled rifles, and sawed off shotguns, and machine guns, and grenade launchers, and all kinds of other things that a regular FFL doesn't cover the possession of overnight. But as an FFL, if somebody brought a suppressor to you, as long as you offer same day service while they wait, then you can legally engrave that suppressor without having an O2 license. So there's an 07 SO, or 07 manufacturing, and then you get into an SOT, which is a special occupational tax, and that's how you get to sell the big toys. The short barrel rifles, sawed off shotguns, machine guns, silencers, suppressors, whatever you call them in your area,
Yeah.
what have you. But I wanted to go ahead and say that I think that's probably where that rule or that misnomer come from, that if they stand there with you. I think it really stemmed from the 24 or the
Okay.
overnight rule. Is like, I think it's really same day service. FFLs don't have to put it in their books if
Okay.
it's same day
No, I
service.
appreciate that. And there was a question on here from Mystery Box, and can you use a digital catalog for the paperwork, or does it have to be paper? Does that?
Well, so there's a lot of I use paper. I use paper because I'm a analog dude stuck in a digital world. But there are lots of digital bound books, as they call fast bound, um, easy FFL. There's a fair amount of them, but I don't use them. And also, would check with your IOI, because some of them don't like it. So I think
Okay.
legally, I think it's okay, but I think that they'd be more apt to give you a hard time if
What's that
if they
acronym stand for? That's obviously your local person.
what's that, IOI,
IOI. Yeah.
Industry Operations Inspector.
Okay.
Yeah, and
So
that's like I
that
said, that's
sounds
like
to me
your
like your local person.
yes. That's your liaison to the ATF.
Ah.
Yeah, he's
Okay.
he's your
Okay.
he's your field agent, the guy who's going to come and physically look at these papers and look at your books and look at your firearms and whatnot. And you asked me if they come to the house, check everything out. They also do a very, 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 very extensive and lengthy interview, which I've come to determine that the interview is called an interview, but it's really more along the lines of orientation.
Okay. So now that I'm
So if
starting to
you
get a better
get an
picture,
interview, then you
yeah.
probably have the FFL already.
Okay. I'm getting learning a lot of information here, because it sounds like, there's some federal requirements, but really it's how you're working with your IOI, I think is what you call them, your
Yeah,
your local person, and what their kind of interpretation of the law is, and how, they
yeah,
kind of see things. That's who you want to use as your guide, more than your
yeah,
buddy
and
who's doing the same thing in Texas. Huh.
yeah, and because seriously, his IOI, could be a good old boy that that it just understands that word differently
Yeah.
than you know he might understand must is like, all right, you
Yeah.
must lock the horses up, but if you don't, they ain't getting out because the
Yeah.
feed's over there, right, or whatever, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's it.
Yeah.
Just depends. It really depends. Whereas must around here, we're near hurricanes, or whatever. Like
Yeah.
we must get the horses up, or whatever. So that's the same type of party. And
Okay.
but you can. And Jason's right. My interview was not very. It depends on how receptive you are to the information and how quickly you understand. He said that Yeah, it did, you know, about 45 minutes. Mine was a little bit longer than that, I think, because we talked a lot. But in any event, I do want to touch on something,
Yeah.
because here's your eBay rule of thumb type deal. See, like this guy right here, it looks like a gun, huh?
Yeah.
But my
It's a
child could buy
trainer
this.
or what is that? That's like a
No, this
trainer?
no, this is called a module. So in the SIG world, the actual part that makes it go bang is a little thing
Yeah.
that sits in here, and it's a separate part of it. So this is nothing more than a piece of plastic. My child can buy this. This is just as much a piece of plastic, except for it's got couple little pieces of metal up here for the slide to ride on. This is a firearm. This is a gun. And
Yeah.
right now, as you see it, I couldn't beat nothing. I couldn't beat nothing with this, even if I needed to. It wouldn't beat nothing as far as defense goes. But if you got caught with this is a firearm, even though
Yeah.
it's a non-functioning firearm at the moment. But this is the firearm because that's the serialized portion.
That's the controlled portion of the weapon.
That's the part that you would go and put in your books. That's the part that would go on this paper. If a person came in and bought this, then I would put this number on this paper and it would be referenced to such. So when they go and build this gun, do something stupid with it, then it,
Yeah.
whatever. Because there's a serialized part that goes with this gun, but it can be taken out. And it's really cool, actually. I have another one here. Sorry, quickly.
No, you're fine.
They sell these little kits. I can change the entire caliber. So this right here, this takes a SIG P320 that looks like this. That's a 9mm, by the way, and converts it into a 357 mag. Here's everything you need to make it a 357 mag. The only thing you don't have is what they call the FCG, the fire and control group. So you can change
Okay.
that fire and control group among 16 of these. You can have a caliber in every SIG and only have one firearm.
Hmm.
As long as you changed it from module to module to module to module. And so
But as you're
the fire
saying
and control group,
as you're saying that, I'm looking at then going, if I can buy that on eBay or Amazon or whatever, then I can mark that or
yeah,
engrave that.
yeah, you can buy this on Amazon, eBay. Well, you probably buy it on Amazon. I don't think they do much gun stuff, but um, unless it's considered it can be used for BBs or bows or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could walk into any store and say, I want that. Most likely a gun store. I want that, and he'd say, okay, $300. Have a good day, and that's it.
Yeah.
Now the part that goes inside of it, that's when he's like, I need to see your license. And
Yeah.
what's crazy is this is a gun, and it looks like a gun, but I don't know if you have the bandwidth to pull up Google and just look up a SIG fire control group. And aside from the trigger, it looks nothing like a firearm whatsoever. And you wouldn't engrave anything on it because nobody would see it.
Yeah, I'll pull it
But
up. Okay. And while I'm pulling this up, I want you to be thinking the next question that somebody had asked me was shipping because, to and from, like, and I know you kind of hit a little bit of that. Um,
yeah, so
is Go ahead.
that's your FCG there. Which
Okay.
well, in that picture it kind of resembles a gun, but that thing ain't but about that big.
Okay. Small.
It ain't. Well, you see how big the trigger is, so it is not much bigger than that.
Yeah.
But in any way, that is the firearm portion of it right there, and you only see. Well, you can see right there where the AB
Oh, this is a
prototype
good
is.
example.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great example. So that is the firearm.
Okay.
So I mean, so it's kind of all over the place, really. Um, Well, not really. There's like those three types. You can have this type, or where it's on the frame, or it's on, in that
Okay.
little embedded in the plastic on the bottom of it, what have you. And then
So
here's
you need to
another
be
type.
well versed at what you're doing though.
And so here's another type of plastic that you can buy on the internet. This is what's called a P80. This has the capability, if you would like to fill out the proper forms to manufacture your own firearm. This is kind of what you would use that for. But
Okay.
this, once again, looks just like a gun.
Yeah.
Uh, it feels like a gun. It acts like a gun. Got that sweet custom stipple on it. But this is a piece of plastic. I can cash and carry this to a 4-year-old if he walks up and says, "I want to buy that for my daddy." All right, here you go, buddy. Because it's a piece of plastic. And so, um, it, like I said, the eBay rule of thumb is definitely, I'm sure, saved a headache or two. I mean, it's not. I'm sure it's not something I came up with. That's just kind of what I coined years ago. I'm like, oh, I associate it with online purchases. If I can buy it online before I had my FFL, because I was trying to exploit
Right.
the gun world, and that's what I would suggest to a lot of people out there. You don't have to just go, toes deep and go get your FFL. You can exploit everything like I just said. If you can buy it and get it shipped directly to your house without any interaction from anyone else other than your credit card company, then you can market for money as long as you got
I
the
can see people
proper
doing the
business law.
handles. I can see people doing the handles. Like I've seen a lot of really pretty wood engraved handles and things like that. So,
I sent 50. There's a guy in South Dakota. I won't put him on blast, but he probably that dude does 400 sets a year at least. Just just the 1911 handles amongst the many other things, but that's just one of the things. Glock back plates, Glock mag plates. I can grab a few of those and show you. But this is a way that you could break into the firearm world, and start customizing stuff and not have to worry about any legalities, no paperwork, no nothing, only just your business, expenditures. But here's little back plates. Those go on the back of well, there you go. Hey, that's my website. So you
yeah,
got,
I
yeah,
mean
well, I guess you could have just did that.
I
But
mean,
I
why
wasn't
not? I
trying to
mean,
give myself a plug.
no,
But
but I can.
well, there you go. That's cool, and thank you very much. But
Absolutely.
all that, and then uh, actually, I just had a gun fall over. No FFL required for this. So yeah.
Oh, that's kind of
Now,
cool.
oh, the kids are like, "Dad, let's play Nerf guns." Okay. So
Wow, that's cool.
I got a 50 cal Nerf gun. They don't want to play Nerf war with me
No,
anymore.
they don't.
No,
So let me ask you what I mean. I know that you have, where do you have an FFL and you're doing, different levels of this. What is the typical person? Are they doing handles? Like what do you see as the biggest
it's all
request?
over the place. What like so it's all over the place. That the gun that you actually showcased in your
Yeah.
little post about me, that was I did sister guns. One of those was kind of but one of them was a request, one of them was kind of charity, but uh that was a request. Like the guy sent me a picture and it was like, I want something like this, whatever, whatever. I think Ashley.
Yeah.
Lord, I forgot her name, last name.
Williams.
Yeah. Um, yeah, sent her the over, got boom, got it back in a week or however long it took. But she's pretty fast, but great. Well worth the wait. I've learned to not need a rush job from her. Although
Yeah.
but in any event, the she did great work, and that was that. But that was a request. Someone came to me. I've had people bring me other lasered stuff and say, can you recreate that? And then just a bunch of custom stuff. I've done duck guns. I've done, and I don't post a lot of pictures of my work. And I know this is selfish of me now.
No, you shouldn't, man, because people
Well,
just pick
but
you off.
I don't, and I don't have time anymore. Like I used
Yeah.
to enjoy it. I used to enjoy fueling the fire of education. I can't do it anymore. So I seldom post pictures of my work because, 13 seconds later, there's 9 questions, which is, it's awesome. And I'm
Yeah, I
flattered.
got you on that.
But, like I said, it is a burden.
You're running a
That one,
business.
yeah, that one person doesn't think they're doing anything. They just don't understand there's 14 more of them like it. And
Yeah.
so, but in any event, we've done all kinds of crazy guns. The craziest gun I did was the sewer rat gun. I did a Kimber. I did a $1,400 Kimber, and I made it the sewer rat edition because the guy, these boys were buying it for their dad who was retiring from our local sewer authority after 25 or however long he was there, a good long while. And it was cool. I took a set of these. I took a set of these grips and I turned it into a sewer grate. Like I
Oh,
put
that's funny.
the knurling on it, and then so it's that. I mean, just I don't like it's just all over the place, as far as it
So
goes.
let me ask you with the shipping question. If
I was
somebody,
gonna, yeah.
okay, yeah, go
So
ahead.
FFL, if you use the postal service, you have to have your FFL on file. That's to be special, paperwork, and let them know that they're actually dealing with a firearm. You can't ship ammunition and that kind of stuff. And there's also special exemptions for that. But yeah, as just a run-of-the-mill FFL, you can't do that. You can use UPS, FedEx, all the big carriers do it. But there's forms that you need to fill out to let them know that you're an FFL, it's going to an FFL, and it is indeed a firearm in that box. And so the last thing you want to do is, get into a situation where a gun doesn't show up and, you know, and then you go to the postal service and be like, yeah, and they're like,
I
what?
feel
Where's
like
your?
whenever I do pirate ship, it might ask me if there's, let me pull it up. I think it asked me.
It'll say is there hazardous, flammable, firearms, fireworks, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I remember that because we sell fireworks too, and so I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I've
Hazardous
never even
materials.
thought about shipping fireworks.
So if you're shipping it to a customer, so
Okay,
Alicia
so there's
orders
there's there's the
firearm.
there's the sugar. I can't ship to a customer. Okay, so if Alicia orders firearm from Jeff, and Alicia's
Yep.
not an FFL, then Jeff has to send that to, a Mike Karchner or an
Okay.
FFL in Texas, that you would have to take your ID and you would go and fill out a 4473 and you would pick up your gun from him, even though you paid me.
Okay.
So because I'm not in Texas, I can't sell you a gun. Now, this is a federal firearms license and it's regulated by the federal government, but it is mandated on a state level or
Okay.
regulated on a state level. So I can't sell guns to a North Carolina resident, and I can't go to North Carolina and sell guns to a North Carolina resident. I can go to North Carolina and sell guns to a South Carolina resident.
Okay.
But
So it
that'd be
depends on
weird.
state. Yeah.
you know. Well, actually, at a gun show, I could go to a gun show. Now let me take that back. Pistols, handguns, revolvers. I can sell long guns to anyone in the country,
Okay.
but I cannot sell any
Interesting.
handgun. I cannot sell any handgun to only South Carolina residents. And you, as a Texas FFL, excuse me, a Texas FFL, would only be able to sell guns to Texas residents if they are operated with
Okay.
your hand. Now, I could
Okay.
come to your shop and you could sell me a shotgun, an AR, a little 22 Henry, whatever. And likewise, when you come to here, I could sell you whatever long gun you wanted. But can't sell you a pistol. If I were to sell you a pistol, let's say you came and you fell in love with my Hello Kitty Glock, and you're like, I gotta have that. And I'm like, all right, well, you're flying, so we'll ship it back, whatever. And I ship it to your FFL, you go over and you fill the
Yeah.
paperwork out and it's yours. And that's how that would have to work. Now, the other foot to that is, let's say that Alicia bought, or the other shoe on that foot rather, not the other foot, but the other shoe on that foot, let's say Alicia bought pistol from, you know, wherever place she bought it from in Texas, and wants Jeff to laser it. You're
Yeah.
not an FFL, you're a consumer.
Correct.
Well, you can ship your gun to me as long as there is a copy of your driver's license inside the box. If there's a
Okay.
copy of your driver's license inside the box, I can receive the gun, take it into my books, and acquire it from Alicia on this date, and then I could do the work. And 6 weeks later, I will mail the gun back to the address that's on your driver's license.
Okay.
And that is the only address it'll go back to. And that is legal. But now,
Okay.
I could not receive a firearm from Alicia from Texas, and then she says, "Hey, I'm going on
Send it to May
a duck hunt."
in North
Yeah,
Carolina.
yeah, and so, send it to Maine or something. Yeah, can't do it, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Okay.
like they're morally and legally
Yeah.
can't do it, right?
Sure.
Um, so that's kind of how that would work because I did a pistol for Cisco. I don't know if you know who that is,
Yeah.
but Drew Hill.
High tech.
Uh, and so,
Oh. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, yeah, that guy. Dun, dun, dun,
Mhm.
dun, dun. Anyway, so and then that was a direct exchange, straight from and back
Okay.
to, and he was long far away. So, but
Yeah.
that will help, you know,
Okay.
and he's and Jason's right once again. Like I said, like I've kind of been highlighting a bunch of rules that vary from ATF agent to ATF agent. And those
Yeah.
the rules don't vary. It is truly just their interpretation of the words in the rule.
Yep. Yep.
So
And as with everything, check with your IOI just to confirm if you're not sure.
and and remember, he is the somewhat judge, jury, and executioner at a local level for you, and so it paid dividends to be like, hello, sir, how would you like this to be done? Instead of,
Yeah.
well, this is the way everybody else does it. So I mean, it's truly satisfy the pride factor. He's in charge type thing, or she. There are
Sure.
plenty of
Yeah.
female IOIs also. So we have one local here too. I haven't met her. I've heard warpath stories over when people have done wrong. She going after bad
Yeah.
guys. But
So I'm
yeah,
gonna ask
so
two more
that would do
questions.
dividends. That would do dividends to try to get in their pocket and ask as many questions because they
Yeah.
get paid by the hour. They'll probably sit there and chat about forever. But go ahead.
I'm
Sorry.
sure they like the attention too to finally get a call on something. I see this not so much on firearms because I'm not in that niche domain, but I see it on other things like glasses and stuff. The ideal laser for this type of work, especially if you're doing metal handles, is a fiber. It's not a CO2 glass
That's
tube.
right.
It's a
That's
fiber
right.
machine.
That's
So
right. Yeah.
make sure you got the right tool.
Equipment. Yeah.
Just like
And what's crazy is actually at Lightburn, I forget his name. I apologize. He'll watch this and cuss me forever. But he was there with San Antonio. Um,
yeah,
he was right before me, but I heard him going in and he said that they had went into a place and this guy had been doing NFA engravings on suppressors and short barrel rifles and stuff like that with the CO2. So he was just burning the black off. And
man,
which visually, passes the test, right? But there are legal depth requirements for engraving guns, actually, if
that's
you
a
were
good topic.
serializing.
That's a
Yeah.
good
Well,
topic, is the
and
legal depth question.
yeah, and that's pretty easy. The letters have to be at least a 16th of an inch tall. There's no width. It
Okay.
just needs to be proportional. But a lot of times you have a very tight window you're trying to get that in, and so I've scrunched it down quite drastically, but it's still a 16th of an inch tall and
Yeah.
legible. So
Okay.
legible, but it has to be a 16th of an inch tall and 3.003 thousandths of an inch deep, and in your engraving, which any engraver just about could get to in about 50 passes, more than likely with a smaller lens, around 100 to
Yeah.
200 millimeter lens. Um, most of them, like I said, I take that with a grain of salt. I've got two or three. I've got one laser over there that we only do NFA engravings on. That's it. That because it always needs to be open because I am not an SOT, so
Yeah.
I cannot keep it overnight. So I have
Yeah.
to offer same day service, and I charge well for it. I charge $125 a firearm, and a lot of times people bring two or three, and we're putting the same thing on all of them, which is awesome because I only got to set up one time, and make
Sh-
$375, $400, because a lot of times they'll give they think that same day service is. I don't let them know I have no legal leg to stand on to keep it overnight. I just say, man, I'll do it today for you, because I
Yeah.
know that's exciting. I know you've been waiting a long time for that form, and they get all
Yeah.
excited, and then I charge them for it. And they have no idea that I can't even legally keep it overnight. So
Yeah. Well, that's
I use that to
understandable.
my advantage. And I mean, just like in my speech, I try to use all things as marketing. Just like when you present
Absolutely.
something, you present this to somebody and it's screwed up. You know what my face is? Man, look at that. Ooh, boy, that thing's money, ain't it? Look. And they're like, wow, yeah. Here's the money. And,
Yeah.
most people are like, yeah, well, there's that little spot right there. I messed up. And they're like, wow, man. And they just stare at it. Dang.
No, no, never notice. But
Right. So,
so I,
use everything as
yeah.
marketing.
So I'm gonna wrap us up, but I want to close with you giving some general just advice to, Joe Schmo or Susie Q who wants to get in this, like just some high level advice and how you would kind of close out the discussion if you were having, if someone came up to you and said, hey, I want to start lasering guns.
Well, the first advice I would give you would be to go ahead and start the process. If you have the money to get the, to get the FFL. A couple of rules for the FFL that you'll find on the Form 7 is you must be engaged in the business. So you must be in the business of being in business of firearms. So you must sell guns. You can't just buy guns and keep them, right? Because then that breaks another rule is you cannot have an FFL as to solely enhance your firearm collection because you do get dealer costs on these things. Which there's another thing I'll just throw out there. There are certain guns that you can just make a whole buku boatload of money on, but for the standard run of the mill like Glock 19, the profit margin is about $28, and this is a $500 investment. It's not exactly
Yeah.
earth-shattering money that I've got tied up a bunch of freaking money. You think if I have 40 guns in the safe, that's $20,000 that I got sitting there, and eventually going to make $28 on it when I sell it. So
Yeah.
it's not. I've found out in the 5 years we've been doing this that you can make a small fortune selling and lasering guns. You really can. The only thing you have to do is spend a large fortune.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that would be that'd be my advice. Go ahead and start the function if you could. If not, then take the other route like I did, and exploit the magazines. And like I said, I sell these on my website. They're made right here in the U.S. of A. right down the street from another good old boy like me that's got a bunch of equipment in his job or in his garage, except for he does CNC stuff and not laser stuff. So, um,
Yeah. I think
you
that's a
can
good
sell those.
takeaway. That's a good takeaway from this conversation is I'm coming out of it with there's a lot of accessory or parts of the firearm
Yeah,
that
you
are
didn't
not
even
the
have
real
to be legal,
firearm. Yeah,
or I say
that's so
legal, but
that's a
you
good
don't have to be
takeaway.
licensed rather.
Yeah, so that's a good takeaway.
Yeah, there's like I said, and that's the way I exploited it. That's the way that I even wanted to see if there was potentially any money in it. I did cups on my fiber I did cups on my fiber long enough for my wife to tell me that we had a 20% loss margin because I had to test every color. Like I had to buy an extra cup for every order just to get the color right on the fiber. On the CO2, it don't matter what color, it's going to burn
Yeah,
it. But the fibers are different. So that's the only reason I got a CO2 is because I was like, well, I have been doing enough cups to justify it. I did this for guns and
yeah,
now I'm doing cups. Right. And so whatever. That's what my ultimate takeaway would be. Hey, if you think you want to engrave guns, go to Home Depot and get yourself some 1/4 inch, square tubing, get them to cut it in 6 or 8 inch pieces. Take a Sharpie marker and start drawing some volutes on it, as in profiles of ejection port slides and anything else you could think of that you're going to potentially have to work around with artwork because engraving guns is easy. It truly is. It's really just lining it up, and I already figured my settings out on the $6 steel from Lowe's.
yeah,
It's the art.
yeah,
It's the
yeah,
cutting that little wolf out right there around all that scroll work. It's the handling this and that and the third. So lasering is, I say easy part, it's hard, don't get me wrong, but it is the easier part. I honestly believe that the graphics, are super, super,
placement
super hard.
and all that stuff. Yeah,
Or even
yeah,
just knowing graphics, knowing Lightburn, knowing Adobe, knowing EasyCAD, knowing whatever it is that you have to do. There's so many engravings that I see that they've just engraved all over the factory marks, which it doesn't look terrible, but I think it would look better if I didn't have to see what kind of gun it was by holding it at an angle 6 ways. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
and I take pride in you can read every factory mark on every gun I've ever done, except for a handful of them that were either doing them for free, charity, a raffle, or for my own personal use, whatever. So
yeah.
or in the very beginning. I'm sorry, I say I never did that. Like, it's shoot, a bunch of guns I
Yeah.
did in the beginning. I didn't know how to do it rather, but when I
Yeah.
learned how to do it, I haven't not done it since. So taken
Well,
away from it, you got all
yeah,
kinds of
go ahead.
materials that you could use at your disposal, without having a license or dealing with the government at all.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, I want to thank you. I want to keep us at an hour. That way I respect your time. This has been very informative for me. And I just got, we just had a little note here from Marshall CNC that very good stuff. Learned a lot. That's the whole reason I bring these to you and get people that know what they're doing. Thank you for your time, man. Again, I
Sure,
appreciate it.
thank you.
And if you are looking, this will be posted up on YouTube and also for a podcast. And you can hit us up for any questions in the Laser Lounge. And everybody have a wonderful evening. Jeff, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And we'll
You're
see you
welcome,
the
Mike. I
next
love
time
you
at the
too. Love you too, brother. Sorry, I love me some Mike. Love you too, Jason. Everybody in there.
We
Um,
got a bunch of kudos out here. Everybody loves you, man.
Oh, it's all because of you, really. You got
Oh,
a
no, no.
worthy place to come to. Yeah. So anyway, thank you so much. I appreciate everyone's time, and hopefully we learned something. And then if I just blatantly screwed up, somebody send me a message because I want to fix it. Right. So I'll
No,
see
we're
you.
good. Have a blessed day, and we'll talk to all y'all later.
See ya.